The galaxy was burning. On a ruined battlefield, under the broken remains of a once great city, a lone alien soldier crawled across the ash-covered ground. His armor was cracked, his weapon shattered, and his breath came in short, weak gasps. The stars above were hidden by dark clouds of smoke. As his vision blurred, the soldier whispered to no one in particular. "Once, we were many. Once, we thought we were strong." His voice trembled as he remembered. Across the galaxy, countless advanced civilizations had thrived for thousands of years. They built cities that touched the skies and fleets that sailed across the stars. They believed nothing could challenge their power. They believed their empires would last forever. But then, the swarm came. No one knew where the swarm came from. Some believed it came from beyond the galaxy, others thought it was an ancient horror awakened from deep space. Whatever its origin, it was unstoppable. The swarm moved like a living plague, spreading from star to star. Entire worlds fell in days. Planetary defenses were torn apart as if they were nothing. No one could understand the swarm's true form, for it was always changing. One moment it appeared as a flood of creatures, the next as massive ships, dark and silent like tombs drifting in space. The alien soldier coughed, his voice breaking. "They devoured everything, everything we loved, everything we built." He closed his eyes as memories of battles filled his mind. The montage of destruction. The galaxy's greatest civilizations tried to fight back. The proud VYRN Empire, with their shining warships, fell within a single month. Their homeworld burned like a dying star. The Kethri clans, masters of stealth and speed, were hunted down and consumed, their fleets disappearing one by one. Even the mighty Dralic Union, who had never lost a war in 10,000 years, were destroyed. In only 10 years, half the galaxy was gone. The surviving species fled, hiding in remote systems and secret bases. Each battle ended the same way, with silence, ash, and the black mark of the swarm spreading further across the star maps. The soldier's last breath escaped as he whispered, "We could not stop them." His body went still, his voice joining the countless dead who had already fallen. The Galactic Council. Far away, on a hidden world cloaked in storms, the last leaders of the free galaxy gathered. It was called the Galactic Council, a place where enemies once argued about trade and territory. Now, those same enemies sat together, united by desperation. The Great Hall was silent except for the hum of failing machines. Holograms showed maps of the galaxy, glowing red where the swarm had taken control. Almost half the map was already consumed. An ancient elder, his skin pale and wrinkled, rose to speak. His voice was heavy with sorrow. "We have no more fleets," he said. "No more weapons. No more worlds to fall back to. If the swarm strikes again, there will be nothing left." Another leader slammed his clawed hand on the table. "Then what are we to do? Surrender? Beg for mercy from a creature that knows none?" A deep silence filled the chamber. Everyone lowered their heads, their hope crumbling. Finally, a smaller alien with nervous eyes spoke softly. There is a rumor." The others turned toward him. "What rumor?" one demanded sharply. The smaller alien swallowed hard. "On the edge of the galaxy, there is a small, primitive species. Their world is called Earth. Some say they are unusual." Laughter erupted through the council hall. "Primitive? You bring us tales of savages while our worlds burn," a tall alien sneered. "If the greatest empires of the galaxy have fallen, what hope could a backwater world provide?" The smaller alien said nothing, lowering his gaze in shame. The hook, humanity revealed. Suddenly, a loud alarm rang through the hall. A hologram flickered to life in the center of the chamber. The image was grainy, full of static, but what it showed made every council member freeze in shock. On the hologram, a battle was raging. Creatures of the swarm poured through ruined streets, their bodies twisting and snapping as they moved. Against them stood strange beings. Thin, two-legged creatures wearing primitive armor and carrying crude weapons. Humans. The aliens watched, expecting these creatures to be slaughtered instantly. Instead, to their surprise, the humans fought back with unmatched ferocity. They did not retreat. They did not surrender. Even when surrounded, they struck from the shadows. They used fire, explosions, and even their own bodies as weapons. One group lured the swarm into a narrow canyon and collapsed it on top of them. Another set a trap using nothing but ropes and spikes, turning the terrain itself into a weapon. An alien elder whispered in disbelief. They fight differently. Not with strength. With cunning. The hologram zoomed in on a single human soldier. His face was bloodied, his eyes blazing with defiance. Even as the swarm closed in, he roared a challenge and charged forward. A deep, mysterious voice echoed through the chamber. These creatures do not fight like us. They fight to the last breath. The laughter from before was gone. Now, there was only stunned silence. The council members stared at one another, their fear mixed with a fragile spark of hope. The elder spoke at last, his voice trembling. Perhaps, he said slowly, perhaps they are the galaxy's last chance. The hologram faded, leaving the room in darkness. Far away, on a small blue world called Earth, humanity prepared for war, unaware that the fate of the entire galaxy now rested in their hands. The Galactic Council chamber remained silent long after the hologram faded. The image of those strange two-legged creatures, humans, still burned in the minds of every alien leader present. They had just witnessed something they could hardly believe, a primitive species fighting the swarm, and winning small battles that even advanced empires had lost. For the first time in years, there was hope, but also fear. The ancient elder broke the silence, his voice low and trembling. If these beings truly fight to the last breath, perhaps they are what we need. The tall, reptilian warlord hissed angrily. Or perhaps they are a danger greater than the swarm. What if they turn on us once the war is done? The council erupted into arguments. Voices overlapped, some demanding immediate contact with this new species, others warning against it. Finally, the elder slammed his staff against the floor. Enough, he thundered. The swarm grows stronger with every passing cycle. If we do nothing, there will be no galaxy left to rule. We must reach out to these humans, and hope they are willing to listen. The journey to Earth. A small alien delegation was chosen. They traveled in a stealth ship, hidden from swarm sensors. The journey was dangerous, taking them through burned-out systems where the remains of great fleets floated like silent graveyards. Inside the ship, the aliens spoke in hushed voices. The smallest among them, a scientist named Varen, could not hide his nervousness. "I do not understand," he muttered, staring at the stars through the viewport. "These humans, how can they resist the swarm with such primitive tools? Their weapons are so basic, their ships so fragile." The reptilian warlord growled. "Perhaps it is madness. Or desperation. Either way, we must see them with our own eyes." After many tense days, they finally arrived at a small, blue-green planet orbiting a yellow star, Earth. From orbit, the aliens could see smoke rising from several continents. Cities were half ruined, but others still stood strong, bristling with defenses. To their surprise, they saw not one single unified force, but many human nations, each flying their own banners, yet somehow fighting side by side against the swarm. Varen whispered, astonished. "They are divided, and yet united. How is this possible?" The warlord simply grunted. "Let us hope it makes them strong, not weak." First contact. The alien ship landed in a remote clearing under heavy guard. Human soldiers surrounded them, their weapons raised, eyes sharp with suspicion. A tall human stepped forward. His uniform was worn but well kept, his expression serious. "I am Commander Elias Ward," he announced. "You are not Swarm, but you are not from here either. State your purpose." The alien warlord stepped down from the ramp, towering over the human. "We come as emissaries," he said, his voice rough and guttural. "We represent the last free species of the galaxy. We seek an alliance." The humans exchanged wary looks. Commander Ward's voice was cold. "An alliance? Why now? When our cities burned, when our people died, where were you then? Hiding in the shadows while we bled." The warlord flinched at the words but said nothing. It was Varen, the scientist, who stepped forward carefully. "We did not know of you, until now," he said softly. "The swarm has destroyed thousands of worlds. If it is not stopped, Earth will fall too. We came because, We cannot win without you. Ward's eyes narrowed. And why should we fight for you? What do you offer us, besides empty words? For a moment, no one spoke. The air was heavy with tension. Then the Elder's hologram appeared, projected from a device the aliens carried. He bowed his head respectfully. Because, he said, if the galaxy falls, your world will not survive alone. Humanity is strong, but even you cannot stand against the endless tide of the swarm forever. Ward considered this carefully. Behind him, his officers whispered, debating in hushed voices. Finally, Ward said, "If we do this, we do it our way. Humanity will not be commanded by an alien council. We will fight, but on our own terms." The warlord's eyes narrowed, but he gave a slow, reluctant nod. "Very well. Your terms, for now." The tension. In the days that followed, humans and aliens worked side by side for the first time. It was not easy. The aliens were shocked by human behavior. Humans laughed and joked even while preparing for battle. They argued constantly, questioning orders instead of blindly following them. They took risks no alien would dare take. To the aliens, humans seemed reckless. To the humans, the aliens seemed rigid and predictable. But slowly, a fragile bond began to form. One night, Varen watched as a group of human engineers took apart a damaged alien weapon. Within hours, they had figured out how it worked and even made small improvements. Varen was speechless. "These creatures," he whispered, "they learn faster than we imagined." Commander Ward smiled grimly. "That's why we survive. We adapt. The swarm can't crush what it can't predict." The first plan. The joint forces began preparing for their first mission together, a counterattack on a swarm-held moon. Alien generals presented their strategy, precise, orderly, and very predictable. The humans listened quietly, then began making changes. Ward crossed out half the plan and replaced it with bold, risky moves. The aliens were horrified. "This is madness," one shouted. "No one fights like this." Ward simply smiled. "Exactly. That's why it will work." The room fell silent. For the first time, the aliens began to realize that these strange beings from Earth might be the key to turning the war around, or destroying them all. First blood. The combined fleet hung in the darkness of space, silent and still. Hundreds of alien warships floated in perfect formation, their sleek designs glowing faintly with energy. Among them were a handful of human ships, smaller, rougher, built with metal and fire rather than elegance. They looked like junk compared to the alien vessels, but every human ship bristled with weapons. On the bridge of his command ship, Commander Elias Ward stood tall, his hands clasped behind his back. Around him, alien officers worked at their stations, casting nervous glances at the human leader. "This mission will test our alliance," said General Tarek, the reptilian alien warlord, his voice deep and commanding. "Our tactics are proven. Follow them, and victory will come." Ward's lips curved into a faint smile. "Proven tactics don't work against the swarm. That's why you've been losing." The alien officers hissed angrily, but Ward didn't back down. "My people fight differently," he continued. "Unpredictably. If you want to win, you'll need to trust us." General Tarek's eyes narrowed. He hated the humans' arrogance, but he could not deny the truth. "Very well," Tarek growled. "But if you fail, it will be your blood that stains this moon." The target. The mission was simple, or so the aliens thought. A small moon on the edge of swarm territory had been completely overrun. It served as a forward base, launching attacks into nearby systems. If the moon could be retaken, it would slow the swarm's advance and give the Council precious time to regroup. The alien generals planned a direct assault, fleets striking from orbit, soldiers landing in perfect order, overwhelming the swarm through sheer force. Ward disagreed. "They'll see that coming," he said, shaking his head. "The swarm doesn't think like you. They'll adapt instantly." He pointed to the moon's holographic display, highlighting narrow canyons and hidden tunnels. "My team will land here, behind their main lines. We'll cut off their supply tunnels and lure them into a trap. Then you strike." General Tarek's scales rippled with anger. "Your plan is chaos," he snapped. "No trained army would ever risk such a reckless maneuver." Ward's cold smile returned. Exactly. That's why they won't expect it. The landing. The human dropships descended first, slipping through radar shadows and landing deep inside enemy territory. The alien ships watched in shock as the humans jumped into action the moment their boots hit the ground. They didn't march in neat lines or follow strict patterns. They moved like shadows, fast, silent, and unpredictable. Ward crouched behind a jagged rock, giving hand signals instead of shouting orders. To the aliens observing through helmet cameras, it looked like chaos. To the humans, it was perfect coordination. The first swarm creatures appeared, skittering across the moon's surface. They were hideous things, part machine, part flesh, their forms ever-shifting. An alien officer watching the feed gasped. They're too close. The humans are exposed. But Ward didn't retreat. Hold, he whispered into his comm. Wait for it. When the swarm surged forward, the humans struck like lightning. Explosions erupted from hidden mines. Snipers fired from concealed perches. Flamethrowers roared, turning tunnels into firestorms. The swarm recoiled in confusion. They had expected a direct fight, not a sudden ambush from all sides. The alien officers stared in disbelief. They fight like predators, Varen whispered. Not soldiers. Predators. The trap. As the swarm regrouped, Ward's voice came over the comms. Phase 2. Draw them in. The humans began a slow retreat, leaving false trails and booby traps. The swarm followed, thinking they had the humans cornered. What they didn't realize was that Ward was guiding them straight into the kill zone. From orbit, General Tarek watched the chaotic battle with growing unease. This is madness, he hissed. If they fail, the entire mission will collapse. Varen's eyes widened as he studied the human movements. No, he breathed. This is strategy beyond anything we've seen. They are shaping the battlefield itself. At that moment, Ward gave the signal. Now. The alien fleet unleashed a devastating orbital strike. Energy beams rained down, tearing through the clustered swarm forces. Caught in the trap, the swarm was annihilated in seconds. The cause. Silence fell over the battlefield. Smoke rose from the shattered moon. Human soldiers emerged from the dust, their armor scorched, their faces smeared with ash and blood. They were tired, but their eyes burned with fierce determination. Ward stood at the center, his uniform torn, his voice steady. Report, he ordered. Losses are heavy, sir, a human officer replied. But the moon is ours. Ward nodded grimly. Then it was worth it. From orbit, the alien commanders were stunned. They had never seen a victory like this, not against the swarm. General Tarek finally spoke, his voice low. I misjudged you, human. Ward looked up at the hologram, his expression unreadable. Don't thank me yet, he said. This was just one battle. The swarm will learn from this. Next time, they'll be ready. The whisper of fear. Later, in the Council's secure chambers, alien leaders reviewed the battle recordings. They watched humans fight with cunning and savagery, bending the rules of war in ways no other species dared. Some were impressed. Others were deeply afraid. They are too dangerous, one alien elder whispered. If they can defeat the swarm, what happens when they turn on us? No one had an answer. Meanwhile, aboard his flagship, Ward stood alone, gazing at the stars. He knew the war was far from over. But he also knew something the aliens did not. The swarm wasn't the only threat. Allies could become enemies. And humanity's greatest strength, their unpredictability, could one day terrify the very galaxy they had just saved. Shadows of betrayal. The victory on the moon echoed across the galaxy. For the first time in years, a swarm force had been destroyed, not just slowed but completely wiped out. Alien worlds lit their cities in celebration, and broadcasts hailed the alliance as a turning point. But in the Grand Hall of the Galactic Council, there was no celebration. Only whispers. The council members watched battle recordings on a massive holographic screen. Human soldiers moved like shadows, striking fast and vanishing before the swarm could react. Their tactics were brutal, clever, and completely alien to the galaxy's way of war. Some leaders were impressed. Others were terrified. A gray-skinned elder with hollow eyes spoke first. "These humans are unpredictable," he said quietly. "They win battles we thought unwinnable. But if they can outthink the swarm, they can outthink us as well." Another council member slammed his fist on the table. "Without them, we are doomed. The humans fight like no other species. We need them." The room erupted into shouting. Voices clashed, echoing off the stone walls. Some argued for closer cooperation with humanity, while others demanded strict control, or even preemptive destruction, before it was too late. Finally, General Tarek's deep, commanding voice cut through the chaos. "Enough," he growled. "While you argue, the swarm grows stronger. The humans are warriors, yes, but they are also dangerous. We must be cautious." No one noticed the quiet figure standing in the shadows at the edge of the chamber. A spy. Its black, featureless eyes glimmered as it recorded everything. Then, like smoke, it slipped away unseen. The swarm learns. Far across the galaxy, deep inside the living heart of the swarm, the spy's transmission reached its master. The swarm queen loomed in darkness, her massive, shifting form surrounded by pulsating veins of organic machinery. She absorbed the images of humans fighting, watching their strange tactics with cold, alien intelligence. A hiss filled the chamber. "These creatures, they fight differently. They are dangerous." The queen's voice echoed through her hive network, reaching every part of her vast mind. "Study them. Adapt to them. They must be erased." In response, the swarm shifted. New creatures began to grow, faster, smarter, deadlier. Designed specifically to counter human strategies. Tension among allies. On a secure base near Earth, human and alien officers worked side by side. Plans were drawn, weapons repaired, and strategies debated. But beneath the surface, distrust was growing. Aliens viewed humans as wild and reckless. Humans saw aliens as rigid and arrogant. Small disagreements turned into heated arguments. When a supply shipment went missing, the aliens blamed human theft. When alien ships delayed reinforcements, humans accused them of betrayal. Commander Elias Ward tried to keep the peace, but even he could feel the alliance cracking. Late one night, Ward stood alone on a balcony overlooking the base. General Tarek approached, his heavy footsteps echoing on the metal floor. "You humans are difficult to command," Tarek said bluntly. Ward didn't flinch. "Humans don't like being commanded," he replied. "We fight best when we fight our way." Tarek's eyes glimmered. "That may be true on the battlefield. But outside of war, your kind may become a threat even greater than the swarm." Ward turned sharply. "Are you suggesting that once this war ends, you'll turn your weapons on us?" Tarek didn't answer directly. Instead, he said, "When predators share a cage, one eventually devours the other." Their eyes locked, both men knowing that while they fought together now, the future was far from certain. The spy moves. While humans and aliens argued, the spy from the council moved unseen through the base. It slipped into restricted areas, planting small devices that pulsed faintly with red light. Each one transmitted valuable data back to the swarm queen, troop movements, weapon designs, even human weaknesses. At one point, a human patrol almost discovered it. The spy froze in the shadows, shifting its form to mimic a piece of machinery. The soldiers passed without noticing. Once alone, the spy released a soft hiss. "The humans grow strong," it whispered into its communicator. "But strength will mean nothing once their own allies turn against them." A moment of trust. During a late-night patrol, a young human soldier named Private Cole stumbled upon an alien engineer struggling to repair a broken power generator. At first, they glared at each other warily. But when a sudden swarm attack hit the outskirts of the base, Cole didn't hesitate. He pulled the alien to safety, firing his rifle at the advancing creatures. Together, they fought back-to-back until reinforcements arrived. When the battle ended, the alien engineer placed a hand on Cole's shoulder. "You saved me," he said, surprised. Cole shrugged. "Guess we're in this together." For a brief moment, the alliance felt real. For a brief moment, there was hope. The revelation. Later, while reviewing surveillance footage, Varen, the nervous alien scientist, noticed something strange. In the corner of one camera feed, He saw a dark shape moving where no one should be. Frame by frame, he zoomed in. His breath caught. It was the spy. And in its clawed hand, it carried a device with the unmistakable markings of the swarm. Varen rushed to report his discovery, but before he could speak, an explosion rocked the base. Alarms blared. Fires erupted. Confusion spread as humans and aliens shouted accusations. Amid the chaos, the spy slipped away, its mission complete. The swarm strikes back. The base still smoldered from the explosion. Fires burned through collapsed buildings, smoke rising into the night sky like dark fingers. Human soldiers and alien engineers worked side by side to rescue the wounded, but their trust was gone. Everywhere, there were angry voices and accusing glares. The humans blamed the aliens for failing to guard their own systems. The aliens blamed the humans for bringing chaos into their ranks. Commander Elias Ward walked through the ruins, his face grim. His soldiers saluted him, but he barely noticed. General Tarek approached, his reptilian features twisted with rage. "This was no accident," Tarek growled. "Someone betrayed us." Ward's jaw tightened. "I know. But right now, our priority is rebuilding. The swarm will strike again soon." Tarek's voice turned cold. "You speak as if you know their mind." Ward didn't respond, but inside, he had a terrible feeling. The swarm had been too quiet for too long. And when an enemy like that was silent, it meant they were preparing something devastating. The calm before the storm. For 2 days, there was uneasy peace. Ships were repaired, defenses rebuilt, and soldiers trained for the next mission. Varen, the alien scientist, worked tirelessly to analyze the data he had gathered about the swarm. His findings chilled him to the core. He rushed towards command room, clutching a datapad. "Commander," Varen said breathlessly, "I've studied the creatures we fought on the moon. They've changed." Ward turned sharply. "Changed? How?" Varen brought up holographic images. "The swarm has adapted to your tactics. Look here, faster movement patterns, thicker armor, new attack formations. They're learning from every battle." Ward's face darkened. "Which means the next fight will be even worse." Before Varen could reply, alarms blared across the base. A voice shouted over the speakers. "Multiple warp signatures detected. The swarm is here. The invasion begins." The night sky lit up as swarm ships emerged from hyperspace. They were massive, organic-looking vessels, their surfaces shifting like living flesh. Human and alien fleets scrambled to launch. Pilots shouted orders, engines roared, and war drums of battle sounded through the command network. General Tarek barked commands in his guttural tongue. "Form defensive lines. Hold them back until the civilians are clear." Ward grabbed his rifle and slammed a fresh magazine into place. "Forget holding them back," he snapped. "We hit them hard and fast before they can adapt." Tarek glared at him. "This is not the time for your reckless human tactics." Ward didn't wait for permission. "Alpha Team with me," he shouted, charging toward the landing zone. His soldiers followed without hesitation. The first wave. The ground shook as swarm creatures poured from their drop pods. They were different now, larger, faster, and terrifyingly precise. Human soldiers opened fire, bullets ripping into the advancing horde. Alien energy weapons added bright beams of destruction to the chaos. At first, it seemed like the defenders could hold. Then, the swarm changed tactics mid-battle. Creatures split into smaller units, swarming through weak points in the defenses. Massive beasts slammed through barricades, scattering defenders like rag dolls. "They're anticipating our moves." Varen screamed over the comms. "They've learned how to fight us." Ward gritted his teeth. "Then we'll give them something new to learn." He led his team into the heart of the chaos, using hit-and-run tactics. Explosions lit up the battlefield as humans set traps, using tunnels, buildings, and even collapsing bridges to cut off the swarm. But no matter how many creatures they killed, more kept coming. The sacrifice. By dawn, the battle was at its breaking point. The defenders were outnumbered and exhausted. Ward's team had been pushed back to the command center, surrounded on all sides. Alien soldiers fought desperately beside humans, but the tide was turning against them. Then came a chilling sound, a deep, echoing screech that rattled every bone in Ward's body. Varen's voice trembled over the comm. "Commander, that sound, it's her. The Swarm Queen is here." Ward's heart sank. If the Queen was personally leading this attack, they were all doomed. In the chaos, Captain Reynolds, one of Ward's most trusted officers, made a terrible choice. "Commander," Reynolds shouted, "I'm taking the detonators. I'll draw them off." Ward's eyes widened. "No. That's a suicide run." Reynolds smiled grimly. "Better me than all of us." Before Ward could stop him, Reynolds sprinted toward the enemy lines. The swarm chased him, their screeches filling the air. Moments later, a massive explosion shook the battlefield. The blast ripped through the creatures, creating a gap in their formation. "Move!" Ward roared, seizing the chance to retreat. Through the smoke, he caught one last glimpse of Reynolds, standing tall before he was consumed by fire. The aftermath. Hours later, the survivors regrouped in the ruins of the base. They had lost half their forces, and the area was littered with bodies. General Tarek stood over a map, his expression grim. "This was no mere attack," he said. "This was a test. The swarm has seen us fight, and now they are ready for war." Varen turned to Ward, his hands shaking. "The Queen knows about humanity now. She understands your tactics. She will not underestimate you again." Ward clenched his fists. His voice was low and dangerous. "Good. Because neither will we." He looked around at the battered survivors, human and alien alike. Some wept for the dead. Others stared at the sky, waiting for the next attack. Ward spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. "They think this was a victory for them," he said. "But we're still here. We'll fight smarter, harder, to the last breath." The soldiers raised their weapons and roared in defiance, a fragile spark of hope flickering in the darkness. The Queen's plan. Far away, deep within the hive, the Swarm Queen listened to reports from her creatures. The image of the human commander appeared in her mind, a small, fragile being with eyes full of fury. "Interesting," she hissed. "These humans fight like fire. They burn bright, but fire can be smothered." Her massive form shifted, birthing new creatures. "Next time," she promised, "we will not simply destroy them. We will become them." Her voice carried through the hive, chilling and unstoppable. "Prepare for evolution." Secrets of the past. The base was silent. The fires were out, the wounded had been treated, and the dead were buried beneath makeshift stone markers. But there was no peace. Only a heavy, crushing weight of doubt and fear. Commander Elias Ward stood in the command tent, staring at a holographic map of the galaxy. Entire sectors were marked in red, showing areas now controlled by the swarm. The red was spreading faster every week, like blood seeping through fabric. General Tarek entered, his reptilian armor scraped and dented from the last battle. "We have maybe 3 days before the next attack," Tarek growled. "We cannot keep fighting like this. My people have lost half their fleets." Ward didn't look at him. "Neither can mine," he said quietly. "But we don't have a choice." Varen, the alien scientist, rushed in, his long limbs trembling with excitement and terror. "Commander, I've found something," he said, his voice shaking. "You need to see this." The hidden signal. Varen led Ward and Tarek deep underground, to a secure laboratory beneath the base. There, surrounded by humming machines, he displayed a fragment of ancient data. "This isn't swarm code," Varen explained. "It's far older, older than my species, older than any species in the Council. I found it buried inside a star map recovered from a destroyed world." Ward crossed his arms. "What does it say?" Varen's eyes glimmered with unease. "It's instructions. A message left by a civilization that existed millions of years ago." Tarek hissed. "Why would they leave a message in the middle of a war zone?" Varen turned the hologram, showing strange symbols glowing in pale blue light. "Because they knew the swarm would return one day. And they were trying to warn us." Ward's voice hardened. "What exactly are they warning us about?" Varen hesitated, then spoke the words that would change everything. "They warned us about humans. The shocking truth. Ward blinked, stunned. Us? That doesn't make sense. Humans weren't even spacefaring until a few years ago. Varen shook his head. No. The data says your species isn't as young as you think. Humans are different. Designed. Designed. Ward repeated slowly, his voice dangerously calm. By who? Varen swallowed hard. By the same ancient race that fought the swarm before us. They lost the war, but before they were destroyed, they created a weapon, a living weapon. That weapon was humanity. Tarek snarled in disbelief. Lies. No primitive species could be a weapon. Varen turned to him, eyes wide. Think about it. Humans adapt faster than any other species. You fight without fear, you improvise in battle, and you do not surrender, even when defeat is certain. The swarm evolves, but so do you. Ward stood silent, the truth sinking in like ice. So, you're saying we were created to fight them? Yes, Varen said. And there's more. This data shows there is something hidden on your homeworld, something the ancients left behind. A weapon or knowledge, maybe even the key to defeating the swarm once and for all. Ward's eyes narrowed. Where on Earth? Varen brought up an image of a planet, Earth, zooming in on a remote region covered in ice and storms. A location buried beneath the Arctic Circle, he said. If the swarm discovers it first, they will twist it and use it against us. The race against time. Ward turned to Tarek. Get your fastest ships ready. We need to reach Earth before they do. Tarek crossed his arms. My fleet is shattered, and your people barely trust mine. Why should I risk what little I have left? Ward stepped closer, his voice like steel. Because if we lose, there won't be a yours or mine. There will only be the swarm. The two leaders locked eyes. Finally, Tarek gave a reluctant nod. Very well, human. But this had better be worth it. Varen interrupted with urgency. We don't have much time. The swarm has been listening to our communications. I fear they already know where we're going. As if to confirm his words, alarms suddenly blared across the base. A soldier ran in, panic in his voice. Commander! Swarm ships just appeared in orbit. Ward swore under his breath. They're already here. The escape. The base erupted into chaos as swarm forces descended like a storm. Massive creatures slammed into the ground, while alien ships unleashed deadly fire from the sky. Ward grabbed his rifle and shouted to his soldiers. Hold the line. Buy us time to launch. Human and alien troops fought side by side, holding back wave after wave of creatures. Ward's team sprinted through smoke and fire, racing toward the hangar where their fastest ship waited. Tarek roared commands in his guttural tongue, cutting down swarm creatures with his plasma blade. Go, human, he shouted. I will cover your escape. But Ward refused to leave him behind. Not today, Tarek. We leave together or not at all. They reached the hangar just as the swarm broke through the outer defenses. Varen dove into the ship's cockpit, frantically activating systems. Hurry, he cried. They're almost on top of us. The engines roared to life, shaking the walls. Ward fired his rifle until the very last second, then leaped aboard as the ship blasted into the sky. The Queen watches. Far above, on a colossal swarm ship, the Swarm Queen observed the battle through her hive mind. Her many eyes glimmered with hunger as she sensed the humans fleeing. They seek the old power, she hissed. Let them run. Let them lead me to it. Her creatures shrieked in response, their wings beating in unison. When they reach their sanctuary, the Queen whispered, we will tear it from their hands and consume their hope. The hidden weapon. The ship streaked through hyperspace, its hull rattling as if it might tear apart. Commander Elias Ward stood at the cockpit window, staring into the swirling tunnel of light. Behind him, Varen worked furiously at a console, his long, thin fingers tapping across alien controls. General Tarek stood silently, his reptilian features tense. How long until we reach Earth? Ward asked. Minutes, Varen said, his voice tight. But the swarm will not be far behind us. Tarek crossed his arms. Then we must move quickly once we land. If the Queen arrives before we reach this weapon of yours, all is lost. Ward didn't respond. His mind was focused on the last thing Varen had told him. Humans were created to fight the swarm. He didn't know whether to believe it or hate it. The landing. The ship burst out of hyperspace, and Earth filled the viewport. The planet was scarred from battles, burned cities, shattered coasts, and skies filled with smoke. Ward felt a sharp pain in his chest. His home. His people. But there was no time for grief. "Take us to the Arctic," he ordered. Full speed. The ship cut through the atmosphere, flying low over icy waters and jagged mountains. Snowstorms whipped against the hull, making visibility almost impossible. "There," Varen said, pointing to a faint glow beneath the ice. "That is where the signal originates." As they descended, massive cracks appeared in the frozen surface. It looked less like natural ice and more like something ancient struggling to awaken. Ward frowned. "This place gives me a bad feeling." The entrance. The ship landed on a flat stretch of ice near a deep fissure. The team disembarked, weapons ready. Human soldiers flanked them while alien warriors formed a perimeter. The wind howled, and the ice groaned beneath their boots. Varen scanned the fissure with his device. "The structure is far below us," he said. "We must descend." Tarek unsheathed his plasma blade. "Then we go now, before the enemy arrives." Ward led the way down a narrow, frozen passage, their breath misting in the cold air. Strange, glowing patterns appeared on the walls, symbols like those Varen had shown them earlier. "They're the same markings from the data fragment," Varen whispered. "This is definitely ancient technology." As they went deeper, the ice gave way to smooth, metallic surfaces. It was as if they were walking into the heart of a buried starship. The chamber. The passage opened into a vast underground chamber. At its center stood a massive, crystalline structure pulsing with pale blue light. It was beautiful and terrifying, like a frozen heart beating slowly. "This is it," Varen breathed. "The weapon of the ancients." Ward approached cautiously. "It doesn't look like a weapon," he muttered. Varen knelt beside the base of the structure, examining the glowing patterns. "It's more than a weapon. It's a living machine. It was built to awaken only when humans reached their full potential." Tarek's tail twitched with impatience. "Enough riddles, scientist. What does it do?" Varen's eyes gleamed with excitement and fear. "If I am correct, it can rewrite the genetic code of an entire species. It can force evolution." Ward froze. "Force evolution?" "Yes," Varen said. "The ancients created humanity to adapt and fight the swarm. But this device would push that even further. It could make you stronger, faster, smarter, capable of defeating the swarm queen herself." Ward's heart pounded. "Or it could destroy us," he said quietly. "The swarm arrives." Before Varen could answer, a deep, bone-shaking screech echoed through the chamber. The walls trembled. Ice shattered from the ceiling and fell like deadly shards. Tarek spun, raising his blade. "They are here." Dozens of swarm creatures poured into the chamber, their claws scraping against the ancient metal. Behind them, a massive shadow loomed, the swarm queen herself. Her body was grotesque and beautiful, a towering shape of muscle and chitin with glowing eyes that burned with hunger. Ward felt a chill run down his spine. "So that's her," he whispered. The queen's voice hissed through the air, echoing in their minds. "Foolish humans. Foolish galaxy. You think you can hide power from me?" Her creatures shrieked and surged forward. The battle for the chamber began. The battle. Gunfire and plasma blasts lit up the darkness. Human soldiers fought with precision, while alien warriors fought with brutal strength. Ward and Tarek fought back to back, cutting down waves of enemies. But for every creature they killed, two more appeared. "Fall back toward the crystal," Ward shouted. "We hold this position or we're finished." Varen worked frantically at the base of the structure, his fingers flying over glowing panels. "Just a little longer," he shouted. "I need to activate the device before the Queen reaches us." The Queen lunged forward, her claws striking like spears. Ward barely rolled aside in time, the impact shattering the floor where he had been standing. Her voice hissed inside his skull. "You were made to fight me, little human. But you will serve me instead." Ward snarled, firing a burst of rounds into her face. "Not in this lifetime." The decision. The battle raged, but the defenders were being pushed back. The queen advanced relentlessly, her massive form blotting out the chamber's light. Finally, Varen screamed, "It's ready!" But someone must stay behind to complete the activation sequence. Ward turned to him, eyes blazing. "What happens when it activates?" Varen's voice shook. "Every human within its range will evolve instantly. Their bodies and minds will become what the ancients intended them to be. But if the queen takes control of it first..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Ward's gaze swept the battlefield, the dying soldiers, the hopeless fight, the enemy closing in. He knew what had to be done. "I'll stay," he said. Tarek grabbed his arm. "No. I will. My people caused this war through weakness. It is my duty to end it." Ward shook his head. "This is humanity's fight. And if we were created to be a weapon, then I'll be that weapon." He turned to Varen. "Get everyone out of here. Now." Rise of the last humans. There was only light. Blinding, pure light that seemed to burn through time itself. Commander Elias Ward felt his body tearing apart and rebuilding at the same moment. His heart thundered like a war drum, his mind exploding with visions of battles fought long before his birth. He saw flashes of the ancient race that had created humanity, their rise, their fall, and their desperate gamble to leave behind one final hope. And then, through it all, he heard a single voice, ancient and calm. "You were made to fight. Now rise." When the light faded, Ward collapsed to one knee, gasping for breath. But he was changed. His muscles thrummed with power. His senses were sharp beyond anything he'd known. He could hear the queen's heartbeat, smell the fear of her creatures, and feel the rage burning in their hive mind. Ward slowly stood, his eyes glowing faintly with the same pale blue light as the crystal behind him. The swarm queen, towering and monstrous, hissed in fury. Her claws flexed, the ground trembling beneath her weight. "You are nothing," she screeched. "You were made to serve me." Ward's voice was steady, almost calm. "No," he said. "We were made to end you. The final battle begins." The queen charged with terrifying speed, her massive body smashing through pillars of ice and metal. Ward didn't flinch. He moved faster than ever before, sidestepping her strike and slamming a punch into her chest. The impact sent shockwaves through the chamber, knocking swarm creatures off their feet. Tarek and Varen, watching from the far side of the chamber, froze in shock. "By the stars," Tarek whispered. He's become something else." Varen's eyes widened in awe and fear. The ancient design worked. He's no longer just human, he's the weapon they created. Ward fought like a storm given form. Bullets were no longer needed, every strike of his fists shattered bone and chitin. He leaped, twisted, and struck with perfect precision, his movements impossible to predict. But the queen was no ordinary foe. She adapted instantly, her limbs shifting, her armor thickening. "You cannot kill me," she hissed. "I am evolution itself." Ward bared his teeth in a grim smile. "Then let's see who evolves faster." The turning point. Outside the chamber, human and alien soldiers fought desperately to hold off the endless waves of swarm creatures pouring through the tunnels. The ground was slick with blood and ice. Exhausted defenders shouted hoarse battle cries, refusing to give an inch. Tarek led from the front, his plasma blade a blur of light. "Hold the line," he roared. "The commander fights for us, we fight for him." His words ignited something in the soldiers. Even the most wounded found the strength to stand and fight again. Varen, working furiously at a portable console, monitored the crystal's energy. "The transformation is unstable," he muttered. "If Ward loses control, the energy could consume him, and all of us." But there was no turning back now. The queen's trap. Inside the chamber, the battle reached its peak. Ward and the queen were locked in a deadly dance, striking and countering with blinding speed. The queen's voice echoed in his mind, sharp and venomous. Foolish creature! You think you are free. The ancients built you as they built me. You and I are the same. Ward faltered for half a second, her words striking deep. No, he growled. We are nothing alike. The queen lunged, wrapping her limbs around him, crushing his ribs. You fight for survival, she hissed. I fight for dominion. There is no galaxy without me. Ward's vision blurred. Pain surged through him like fire. But then he saw flashes of his people, ordinary humans fighting, sacrificing, refusing to bow. Images of Captain Reynolds, of the soldiers who had died believing in him, flooded his mind. Ward roared, breaking free with a burst of pure willpower. You're wrong, he spat. There is a galaxy without you. And it starts today. The final strike. With one final surge, Ward leaped high into the air, glowing with the crystal's power. The queen tried to adapt, her armor shifting and hardening, but it was too late. Ward drove both hands into her chest, channeling all his strength into a single devastating strike. A blinding explosion of blue light filled the chamber. The queen screamed, a sound so terrible it seemed to shake the stars themselves. Her body split apart, dissolving into ash and smoke. Every swarm creature outside froze mid-attack, their connection to the hive severed. Then, like falling puppets, they collapsed lifelessly to the ground. The battlefield fell silent. The aftermath. Ward staggered, barely able to stand. Tarek and Varen rushed to his side. You did it, Varen whispered, awe in his voice. The queen is gone. The swarm is finished. Ward shook his head weakly. No, not finished. They'll rise again someday. But without her, the galaxy has time to heal. Tarek placed a clawed hand on Ward's shoulder. You have saved us all, human. No, warrior. Ward gave a tired smile. This wasn't just me. It was everyone who fought, everyone who refused to give up. He looked out across the battlefield, seeing humans and aliens standing together amid the silence. For the first time, there was no hatred, no fear, only unity. The legacy. Days later, as the survivors gathered, Ward addressed them. The swarm thought they could consume us, he said, his voice echoing across the ruined valley. They thought we were weak. But today, we showed them what it means to be human. He looked to Tarek and Varen, then to the thousands of soldiers watching him. We fight not because we were created to fight, he said, his voice strong and clear. We fight because we choose to. That is what makes us free. The crowd erupted in cheers, a single sound of hope and defiance. Epilogue. In the darkness of deep space, a fragment of the Queen's essence drifted silently. Tiny sparks of life glimmered within it. A whisper echoed faintly. Evolution never ends. Back on Earth, Ward stood on a cliff overlooking the sea. Varen approached quietly. Do you think it's truly over? He asked. Ward stared at the horizon. No, he said softly. But next time, the galaxy won't face it alone. He turned, his eyes still glowing faintly, and walked back toward his people. The camera pulled back, showing Earth scarred but alive, surrounded by the vastness of space. Humanity had risen, and the galaxy would never forget.